Then let's go with what we believe. All right.
Perfect.
You want to
And-
do that?
Yeah, so let's go with what we believe.
Okay. Take as much time as you want.
Well,
Go
not
into
too
as
much time, because we don't.
5 minutes each. Go from beginning to end. What do you think this is all talking about? Not just Revelation, but the grand scheme of things and how it culminates in, well, if you believe that, how it culminates in Revelation.
So let's do this then. Dennis, you're gonna kind of be the soundboard here, right? We'll go pause us, like, hey, question, right? Stop us a little bit if you want more explanation on certain things, because it is gonna take a little. It is gonna take a little longer than 5 minutes, unless you guys have easy, like, it's all futuristic. Okay, well then we're done in 1 minute.
That's my take. You guys could have the rest of my 4 minutes and
I mean,
55
I would
seconds.
say if it takes you more than 5 minutes, you're connecting too many dots that,
Or
might not
quoting
need
a
to.
lot of scriptures.
Yeah, sure. Just go ahead.
Yeah.
You get 5 minutes.
Well, who wants to go first? Benny, Claudiu? I'm good to go last.
You.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you go first.
All right. So in the garden, God created humanity, and the fall happened because we know the serpent wanted to deceive, and he did. And so death entered the world and humanity was kicked out. God made a plan in Genesis 3:15 that through the seed, he will crush the serpent's head. It was a seed promise from Genesis 3. So what you see in Genesis garden, you see a covenant between God and man broken because of the violation that man violated the covenant promises. So God made a covenant with himself. He promised that the promise was enacted in Genesis 3. I will handle this. I will restore humanity. My seed will do that. And as you're attacking his heel, he will crush your head. So now the whole Old Testament is all about that. It's the seed promise being enacted. It starts out here, massive seed, boom, Abraham, it's coming through your seed. Really? Yeah. In fact, we're going through Israel seed specifically. And on top of that, he's going to be a prophet like Moses. He will be a king like David. And he will be a priest that's able to unite the two worlds. So now you have this Old Testament promise announced, meaning everyone in the Old Testament was saved by that same promise we are. They believed in the promise announced. We will look back at the promise fulfilled. So when Christ now enters the land, what you're seeing from Old Testament all the way into the Messiah is this battle plan of the seed and the other seed, because the seeds were attacking each other, right? The woman of the seed and the seed of the serpent, they would go after one another until the plan is to be fulfilled in the Christ. So all Old Testament allusions are about the messianic the kingdom coming. The Messiah will come, will put the works of the devil at a complete halt. He will stop it. Well, at that time, all the nations were deceived. Everyone was under the power of the devil. Everyone was under power of the evil one. They were all enemies of. They were this inherited from Abraham's covenant. They were not part of the promises, and we see that throughout the Old Testament. And then we jump into the New Testament. Enter the Messiah. The Messiah says the time has been fulfilled. It's a past tense language. It's been fulfilled. I'm here. Here we are. Let's get this done. He actually quotes Isaiah in Matthew 6, I believe, or Matthew 4, and he says, after reading the scrolls, he says, all eyes were on him. And he says, that time has been fulfilled. And everyone's like, what? This is it? Yeah, this is the Isaiah prophecy talking about the fulfillment and the release and the kingdom inaugurated that's been promised. It's here. The kingdom of heaven is here. It's at hand. It's in the midst. It's there. It's the kingdom talk throughout the whole book of Matthew and Luke and whatnot. So now the kingdom is announced again. It's here. It's fulfilled, leading up to the resurrection. And this is the mystery of the resurrection. And this is why I think we got to do a bigger dive in what the resurrection really did. When Christ was about to lead towards his resurrection, John chapter 12, he says, now have they been cast down, and judgment on the world is here. How is that possible? Not future, not 2,000 years, 3,000, 4,000 years later. He says, now it's the judgment's here. It's now, and they've been cast down. And now what happened at the resurrection? Well, I'm sure the serpents thought, this is it. We got to kill him. He's coming after our kingdom. We offered him the nations. He denied us. Forget it. Kill him. Go after him. Kill him. And then they killed him. All right, we won. And then lo and behold, he raises from the dead. He's exalted in Daniel chapter 7. He rises in the clouds to meet the Ancient of Days at his throne. That's Daniel 7 prophecy. So Christ rises to the clouds, Acts 1:9, and he goes up to the heavens. And now he's seated in the heavens. And now when Acts 2, what happens is Peter takes that and he says, hey, what you're seeing is the fulfillment of Joel chapter 2 and Isaiah chapter 10. the tongues, all these things are now a sign of what? Eschatology, the end. This is the sign of judgment that Joel was talking about, Isaiah was talking about. And here, what else David said was, when he saw the resurrection of the Christ, he prophesied regarding his resurrection when it talked about, sit at my right hand until I make your enemy a footstool. So he quotes Old Testament and says, the Messiah, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies a footstool. And then it connects that to the resurrection. So what he's saying is the exaltation of Christ at resurrection, he will sit at the right hand of the throne of God. He's there until his enemies become a footstool, right? So that's Acts. You can see that throughout all the book of Acts. Then we enter the book of Ephesians, which is why it's phenomenal, because Paul picks up on this message. He says, let me explain something to you. This is God's predetermined plan before the foundations of this world, that we would be adopted into his family. In fact, in Ephesians chapter 2, he brings it in and says, you Gentiles were disassociated from the promises of Israel. You had nothing to do with Israel. You had nothing to do with his promises. But because of Christ, the peace that was not there is now there. And now the two became one new humanity. And this new humanity is the Jews and Gentiles becoming one in the beloved Messiah. And that's the church, right? That's chapter 2. But chapter 3, it says this. It says, therefore, I bow my knee before the Father. Hold on, pause. So he pauses. He goes, surely you've heard about the ministry that was given to me regarding this mystery. He says word mystery 7 times in the book of Ephesians. In other words, it was hidden before the foundations of this world until the coming of the Messiah. It was in.
No, we missed
Time out. Your
Hank.
mic. Hey, your mic went out again.
What is going on?
His mic has a timer.
Now that Christ has come, he inherited the victory. He won. He is now seated at the heavenly thrones. He is the king. In fact, Matthew 28 says, all authority is given to me on heaven and on earth. All of it, not some of it, not most of it. All authority is given to me. In other words, he's the king. He reigns. He's exalted to the highest heavens. And now he currently reigns, and he is reigning over. He bound Satan. In other words, Satan could no longer deceive all these nations that were deceived in all Old Testament antiquity. They had no ability to come to the Messiah, to Israel.
Satan is currently bound in your perspective.
Yeah. So according to Revelation chapter 20, it says that Satan will be bound and locked up for 1,000 years. And in order to understand what that currently means, when you say Satan is bound, you have to look at the next few verses afterwards in verse 7 and 8 and understand when he's released, what is he released to do? If he's bound from doing something, then he's going to be released to do something. So when you look at the Revelation chapter, it says, okay, what is he bound from doing? We say to deceive the nations. That's cool, because in verse 7 it says, now he's released to deceive the nations. So you're going to see exactly, well, what is he released to do? And what you're going to see that he's released to do is now gather all the nations around the 4 corners of the earth. So what is he bound from doing? He cannot gather all the nations from around the 4 corners of the earth. And what's the whole goal? To raise them up for a great finale, a great battle against the camp of the saints and Israel. That's that's the second finale. That's what everyone believes in. We believe at the end of days, there's going to be a massive rebellion. There's going to be a massive Satan uprising. Everyone believes that, right? So he's bound from doing that. That's not happening.
And
currently.
You're getting that from the Revelation 20 passage where it says that Satan is bound, but then will later be released to deceive the nations.
Exactly.
So he's not currently deceiving the nations right now.
To gather them for a great battle? No, he's not. That's not happening right now. What you're seeing is a massive influence in Christianity in all the world. There are more Christians today than there were 100 years ago, 200 years ago.
Yeah, I'm not arguing with that, but I do also see the nations gathering together. The idea of like a one world government, one world digital banking currency, all that kind of stuff, moving to non-cash societies, vax pass, whatever you want. It's all moving into a direction where people and nations are gathering. So I find it very hard to believe that Satan is not behind that.
So I have to agree.
Yeah. So again, if we're going to identify and quantify the fact that, hey, in our world perception right now, we see a pretty bad world. Therefore, Satan's
not pretty bad, very specific movement of nations towards a one world government.
Right. And it's not necessarily a world government. That's not what it's saying in that passage. That's kind of what you're inferring.
That's just what I'm seeing right now.
But what you got to see in the passage is when he's released, it's not to create a one world government. That's not what it's saying. The release is for the specific purpose to rise up worldwide and destroy. That's what he can't do right now. He can't do that right now because you're not seeing it. Why? Because we have a podcast. And guess what? Nothing's happened to me because
No,
Christ
it's
is
but
reigning supreme.
but it's building to that. It's building to
Yeah,
You
that.
know,
in China,
well,
you can't do what we're doing.
Yeah,
yeah, but
you would have to be of
So
the
if you lived
opinion
in
that
China, you
Satan
would live the
is
same way.
well, see, there's your point. I agree in China, but that's a pocket. That's not a global thing, right? Satan is bound from doing a global wide assault. So there's a difference between saying like,
yeah,
hey,
but it
man,
builds, it gets there. It doesn't Satan isn't just bound at 12 p.m. in
Yeah.
2055 and then at 1201 the nations arise and go to war against you. That's not how it works.
right? But
Things
what,
play out, things build up to a certain point. One world government would be pretty easy to rise up to go fight against the coming Christ, right? As opposed to a billion different little nations and city states and whatever you want.
yeah. So
Um,
to your point, I would say this: like, there's a difference between Satan being bound and collecting all his resources versus Satan's being bound, but his influences are still allowed to go around. We know.
I mean, that's very that's a real lucky interpretation of that.
Well,
Yeah.
no, consider all these
Yeah.
things, right? So when Satan was cast down, we know that the angels are locked up for a time of judgment. They're chained according to 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 4. So we know there is a chaining that's
Those
currently
and those you believe are currently being chained.
no, those, oh, absolutely, they are locked up. And that's not to say like all the demons. It's saying specific, those people are
Specific
chained.
ones, right?
So what we do know is this: those people are specifically chained. That doesn't mean all the other demonic realms are chained. There are still demonic
totally.
forces, right? So I'm not saying that the demonic influences are chained. I'm saying the serpent himself, the main character, is bound.
So
He
just their
can't-
boss.
So he can't go around to gather the world.
But he's not even completely bound. He's bound from doing something very specific.
Exactly.
We have to reiterate that. So it's hard to describe in our world because we live in a physical world. But let's say you know, like we see this in the hospital all the time. People are a hazard to themselves and they want to hurt themselves and kill themselves. We tie them to the bed, right? They're bound from hurting themselves, but they're not bound from breathing. They're not bound from talking. They're not bound from watching TV. They're not bound from doing a lot of activities. We're binding them from very specific things. And that's what's happening to Satan here. He's being bound from a very specific thing to gather all the nations against the church. He's not bound from planning it. He's not bound from setting it up. He's not bound from
He's just bound from being successful.
He's
No,
bound from
to, executing his judgment. He's bound from getting everyone and attacking the church and his people. That's what he's bound from doing. He can't do it right now. Is he setting it up? Of course. If he's setting it up, he's going to set it up. He's going to get his rulers in the right place. He's going to influence leaders to get in the right place. He's going to move his pieces around. So then when he's released, I can go gather my people, rise them up, and let's do what we got to do. We're going to attack the saints one more time.
When is he released?
At the end of the reign. So at the end of the millennium reign, towards the end of his reign, and again, this would be the final judgment of God, right? Where right now he is reigning. In fact, as we see, he's reigning and he's making all his enemies and he's putting them under his feet. He must reign until all his enemies become under his foot. And then he's going to come and destroy the final enemy. And that is death and the serpent. That's the final victory we have, is when he comes to fulfill that promise.
So he's currently reigning, currently putting all his enemies under his feet, right, as a footstool. But he's not going to be successful because Satan's going to be able to rise the nations up against him for battle, right?
Revelation
So Satan takes his footstool.
Well, that he's going to attempt to. Nowhere in the passage does it say he's going to rise it up and win. He's just going to rise it up. And then that's when the second coming happens. That's when Christ leaves the throne and physically descends on the earth and physically destroys the works of the devil fully and completely.
Revelation says he was allowed to overcome the saints.
He was allowed to encircle them for a great battle in Revelation 20. So if we read Revelation 20,
but you don't think that battle actually happens? They just gather and then Christ comes back before the battle occurs?
Well, I mean, I'm just going to read the text and I'm going to try to stay within the bounds of the text, right? I'm not going to...
Actually, hold on.
Okay.
Let's just finish with what we believe.
Yes.
Right?
Well,
before we start parsing it and start getting into it, because we're going to get into it.
Yes. So again, Christ is currently reigning and he'll do this until his appointed time. We know that's called the time of the Gentiles. At that time, When it's about to come, Satan's going to be released. He's going to start doing the works, whatever he's going to do, all the details. Prior to his successful triumph over humanity, Christ steps off the throne, comes back to earth, destroys with his coming. When you see the swords coming out of his mouth, the languages of just destruction on judgment on humanity, kills all the non-believers, kills all those that are his enemies. White throne judgment ensues. Heaven and earth passes away. Boom, the books are open. And then we enter into judgment day, and all those who are his will be sent to heaven. All those who are not will be sent to the fire, and then he'll destroy death and serpent and everything.
So heaven and earth pass away. Is there a new heaven and a new earth, or where is
yes.
eternity?
So then that's the good point. So when he comes, he's going to consummate the whole kingdom motif. Prior to it, he announced it. The kingdom is here. We're now living in the kingdom growth, right? The church of hell, the gates of hell will not prevail. He's building his kingdom, and he will be victorious. So the kingdom is building. It's growing. More people are getting saved. Every generation, more Christians are getting saved. So the gates of hell will not prevail. He's building his kingdom. When the time of the Gentiles is over, whatever that is, Israel will repent. Somehow, some way, they will say, "Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord," according to Matthew 23. The Messiah comes, receives his inheritance. All the nations are his, and also at the end, the remnant of Israel will be his. He'll come and do judgment day. After judgment day, heaven and earth pass away. The new heavens and new earth will be fully consummated. We will enter the eternal state, and now what he started will be actualized. So it was a seed that grew, the mustard seed. It was planted, and now it's going to grow into a massive tree.
So that kingdom that you guys believe is currently here,
Yes.
like Jesus asked, is the kingdom possibly Jesus? You guys said no, it's actually the kingdom that was instated. That is going to transfer over to the new heaven, or I'm sorry, the new earth.
Yeah. So when Christ comes down fully, physically, to destroy fully, completely the works of the devil and put an end to sin and the reign of sin, it's done. The eternal state starts. That is the new heaven, the new earth, fully consummated. The new heaven, new earth started. Actually, we are now experiencing the start of the new heaven, new earth. It's called the inauguration phase, where God promised it. He's now starting his work. We see this in the book of Hebrews. So we got to be mindful.
But do you think there's actually going to be a physical new earth?
Yeah, I mean, this is all Old Testament mentality, right?
New Jerusalem.
We're not looking towards heaven. I mean, I know that's a lot of the ideas, like, oh, I can't wait to get to heaven,
like a faraway place.
But that's not the biblical scriptures imagery of what anyone looked forward to. What they looked forward to was the resurrection. Everybody was waiting to be resurrected at the final day and reign with the Lord forever, physically on an earthly plan. So we're looking for raised bodies and to be physically with the Lord for all eternity on earth, in the new heavens, the new earth. Whatever that looks like, whether it's the cube or not, that's a different story. But we are looking for the new heaven, new earth, where Christ physically reigns, and we will be with him forever. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. Great 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So
the longest 5 minutes.
I'll make it quick.
No, bro, you got 5 minutes.
No, ditto everything Ellie said, with one thing, one exception.
Cheat.
No, one exception. I'm not comfortable saying that we are currently in the millennium. But other than that, no, I believe that. I'm not fully comfortable saying that.
You know what, Claudiu, to your point, this also allows for a future time period on earth. If Christ wants to reign, he can do that.
Yeah. Wow.
I don't call it the millennium. We are in the millennium kingdom, though. I would say that we are in the millennium.
Cool. He said it here. You heard it here first, folks.
Just don't show it. Hey, that was pretty good, actually. So we're gonna leave.
That was pretty good. Yeah.
Don't show this to my church.
Well, real quick, Revelations 13. It says that it was really quick. It was given power to him to wage war against God's holy people and conquer them.
In AD 70.
Every tribe and tongue and nation.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's getting hot.
Absolutely. So absolutely. So if you actually look in the word earth,
all inhabitants of the earth will worship the beast.
Hey, would you like, Claudiu, to take back that ditto from a minute ago?
No. All inhabitants of the earth will worship the beast, all whose names have not been written in the Lamb's book of life and were slain from the creation of the world. Those were all in AD 70.
Yep.
I can't wait to start reading Revelation.
Okay. All right. Don't go any further. Don't go any further. All right.
Stay tuned,
That's it.
folks. There's more.
There you go.
But if you
Ben
act
shows-
now, we'll give you 4 of them.
Subscribe below. Subscribe below.
Yeah, like, subscribe. We'll throw in some essential oils.
We'll throw in
What?
some links to our crazy talk.
and a My Pillow.
And
Yeah, I know my
pillow.
pillow. My pillow.
Promo code POSO.
No. Perinamia. We got Perinamia.
Hey, we'll get promo code Bennis, dude. We're gonna get My Pillow to sponsor us.
There we
Dude,
go.
no, forget my pillow. We've got Perinamia. It's the latest and greatest memory foam pillow
Yeah.
made specifically for sweaty Europeans.